Starting in the 1950s, with the rise of colorized television, several American families switched their radio podcasts for primetime broadcasts. With millions of viewers tuning in, creative writers made shows ranging from comedy classics like I Love Lucy to action-packed dramas such as Game of Thrones. However, while other people have been concerned with questions such as in which order does almost everyone die by the end of the season, I found myself most captivated by shows that have a clear, common feature: Black families. I know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Bill Cosby's name, and those do need to be addressed and talked about, but that's not the point of my speech today, so I'm going to continue on a different front. In the mid-1980s emerged The Cosby Show, a story about Cliff Huxtable, his wife Claire, and the life of their family living within an ever-so-familiar Brooklyn brownstone. Although there were Black TV shows prior to The Cosby Show, such as Good Times and The Jeffersons, The Cosby Show defied stereotypes held negatively against Black people. With the father being a doctor and the mother being a lawyer, it showed Black people dealing with wealth and education as opposed to poverty or ignorance. It dealt with issues that weren't only relevant to Black people, but nearly all people, such as raising their children with humility, the importance of going to college, and even dealing with personal obstacles and disorders, such as Theo with his dyslexia. As the show held the most viewers in America for 5 straight seasons, I think it's safe to say that it captured the hearts of families all across America, regardless of race. However, despite the high success of the show, it wasn't immune to criticism. Most of the criticism followed the sentiments of Henry Louis Gates and his comment that the show allowed for audiences to believe that issues such as poverty and racism were of the past. But nonetheless, the success of the show allowed for other highly successful Black TV shows to follow in its path, such as My Wife and Kids, The Bernie Mac Show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Everybody Hates Chris. Now, Everybody Hates Chris showed a more crude depiction of the Black family. As opposed to Dr. Cliff Huxtable, it showed Julius, a man who balanced 2 jobs and often worked late hours. And as opposed to Ms. Claire Huxtable, who was also a lawyer, as I previously mentioned, it featured Rochelle, a woman who, in between trying to care for her 3 children, often would try to find work, but would end and quit her job in an angry tirade that ended with, "I don't need this, my man has 2 jobs." Chris, the main character, attended Corleone Junior High, a predominantly white middle school, and often faced a lot of adversity, from being called rude nicknames such as cornbread to being given unfounded assumptions such as that he was staying up all night and couldn't study because he had 19 half-brothers and sisters. Anyway, viewers across America also got a different view into frugality, with Julius telling Chris one night to unplug that alarm clock. You can't tell time when you're asleep. Or with Rochelle, when Rochelle threatened Chris that, "Boy, if you ever lie to me again, I'll slap you to another nationality." It was actually really funny because in the show, he actually changed into an Asian kid for a quick moment, but that's besides the point. The show, Chris Rock led the show in a way where it depicted more of, I guess, the struggle, but it did in a way where it balanced both comedy and class. And shows, like Everybody Hates Chris, set a very high bar for Black TV shows of today to follow and hopefully surpass. Now, today's hit Black TV show is Blackish, along with its spin-off of Grownish. And yes, it possesses a lot of similar elements to the Black TV shows I've referred to you before. However, it possesses something different: the power to spark conversation. Where Cosby Show and a bunch of other Black TV shows would avoid or negate or not capitalize on their ability to spark conversation and address stereotypes often held against Black people, Blackish hit them square on the head with issues and episodes completely directed towards the stereotype that Black people can't swim, or that involving politics and how it impacts the community, and even the most recent election, all the controversy that was associated with it. The show realized its power that it captured on viewers to spark conversation. And some of you might be asking, why does a TV show need to spark conversation? Isn't it good that we finally get to see Black families, along with families of different races, show the love, the intellect, and the support that they all possess? And I agree. It's really nice that colorized television, for once, is showing color. However, there is clearly a disconnect between Black TV and Black reality. The truth is many black families are broken, from issues ranging from single mothers, proximity to crime, and low income. And oftentimes there isn't an Uncle Phil or a Bernie Mac to step in with swooping arms. Even personally, my family situation wasn't ideal, but I still have my loving mother who has grounded me in faith and has always been giving me support, a stepfather who has exceeded every expectation one could ask from a father, and bright brothers and a sister who I hope will surpass me one day in a combination of height, wit, and might. Nonetheless, though, I know that my situation is closer to an anomaly than a normality. And it doesn't help that the media, although they understand that issues regarding that I previously listed to you are relevant in all races, specifically pinpoint the negatives and the vices on black people in the black community. According to a study done by the Washington Post, black people are over twice as often represented as people who are poor or of lesser means, and about 1.5 times as often represented as people who are criminals or incarcerated. And it's evident that the media portrays people vastly different based on the complexion of their skin. As you can see, for an example, these are two relatively recent news stories. And in one, they tried and highlight his academic prowess of how he was a genius science student and how he had so many friends, and where he took just one misstep of how he went wrong. And the other, they show how Michael Brown had recently graduated from high school. Oh wait, that's not the picture they used to circulate his news story. They portrayed him as rougher around the edges, and they said that what he was holding in his hand was a gang sign, where it could easily be offered that that was just a peace sign, but maybe that's just me. As I was saying, vastly different representations. So you might ask, what next, or what can we do? The media is obviously cemented in their practices, and what can what can I do as a person of one, or even us as a couple of hundred people? But I'd like to challenge you. I'd like to challenge you today to one, realize regardless of who you are, the perceptions of those that are around you don't define you, and you can overcome the limitations and barriers that are set on you. And two, I challenge you to embrace. Not only embrace yourself and the culture and what you bring to the table, but also embrace one another. Instead of tearing each other down, build each other up and help us to be a more well-rounded and a stronger community. Thank you.